Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor
and his cousin
gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides. For the latest updates, information, picks, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides, and you can follow my cousin Jared on Twitter at Cousin Jared. This Major League Baseball episode covers every game scheduled to be played on Monday, September 19th, 2022. In case you're new here, I built a mathematical model for win probability using hitter and pitcher projections I've created in order to make one money line or run line pick on every game that's played 7 days a week, though there are no Sunday shows. That doesn't mean I recommend you do the same, as my goal in this episode is to share key information about today's games, give you a few things to think on, and explain why certain plays are being made in order for you to come up with picks that you are comfortable with. I never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with us or against us before investing your hard-earned money. And as I go through the plays, remember that there are no locks in gambling. So what I'll give you are loves, likes, and leans to indicate my confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. As always, please remember that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to see it'll be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. Cousin Jared, I feel like since the last time I saw the listener, we had a stretch of that bad variability.
Yeah.
I feel like couldn't get a one-run win to save our lives. Lost a plus 1.5 in extras, which I feel like it's hard to do. It's a good and bad variance we always talk about, right? When it's, we had basically a break-even week, and that's why I always talk about, like if the bad variance is break-even, that's good, and then we have the good times as well. So that's better than the alternative, I guess is all I can say, right?
Yeah, I think it was last Tuesday. I think it was where we, in the Discord for all the Patreon people on the Patreon, we didn't know if we were going to lose a play that entire night. So that was way up that night, and then like you mentioned, slowly downhill the rest of the night. Like I said, the really bad luck on the one-run games for the remainder of the week. So yeah, glad that we had that really good day to kind of make up for all the bad variance later in the week.
Yep. Hopefully we can have another profitable week here. Closing out the season, September baseball is always a little bit wonky. Sometimes it goes well, sometimes it doesn't. You never quite know what you're getting. The model being player base is trying to adjust for that, but you never quite know. And always have to check the lineups, right? With the whole when teams start, the Dodgers clinched a little early, everything, but you got to be careful of when a team clinches. We got to keep an eye on that because the next day tends to be a little bit of a sleepy day. Of course, the Dodgers still almost won that game. Of course, lost it in extras because that's kind of the way the end of the week seemed to go for us. But before we get to today's slides and reminders, please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and the only way is so you can turn notifications on to ensure you don't miss any of the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Also, check out Horse Racing Today if you like to play the ponies. You can find their stuff at horseracingtoday.net. They're a team of 5 with over 125 years of combined experience in handicapping horse races. There's an angle they don't know or bias they can't identify. Check out their YouTube shows or website. Links are in the description. And then last thing, a reminder, you started up a Patreon page for those of you looking to support the show. Membership starts at just $3 per month. Benefits include things such as exclusive access to the play of the day, our Discord group, ad-free and early access to shows, and early access to projected spreads. I think, Cousin Jared, you're going to talk about one of those early access things that gets you a better number than what you actually got locked in here on the night before today. Every day it feels like there's always a couple.
Yes, definitely. At least one every day that you get some great value on right off the bat.
Yep. So start off, we do have an afternoon game on Monday, which is always exciting. I feel like Mondays are usually like why aren't we playing baseball to Tuesday? Tuesdays, like why are we not, like it should be like one game, right? 1 o'clock, Twins and Guardians finishing off a 5-game series, so it's getaway day here on Monday rather than on Sunday. The Guardians are minus 105 favorites. I'm on the Guardians with an A grade play here. Model says this should be Guardians minus 116. Should be a low scoring game. Model likes under 7.5 as well. It says the total should be 6.9. Weather-wise, we're going to be in the mid 70s. Winds be blowing in at almost 10 miles an hour, helping out to above average pitchers. Sonny Gray and Cal Quantrill. Sonny Gray, 2.91 ERA. It's not, he's underlying metrics say he hasn't been quite that good, but still an above average pitcher and having a solid year. Cal Quantrill, 3.51 ERA. Advanced metrics also say probably not quite that good. Both these guys are getting above average. The Twins do have an edge starting pitcher wise with Gray, but otherwise it's mostly a wash with the Guardians having a better set of relievers in the game in Cleveland. The relievers probably offset the starting pitcher edge. Model says Guardians 53.7%, which is basically home field advantage. making 105. A pretty solid play here on them. It's an A-grade play for me, barely. This is kind of the highest price I want to go on that A-grade play. I was hoping for closer to even money, but at 105, it still reaches that A-grade status. Also of note, I'm constantly making slight tweaks to the model, never trying to change it up too much. It's been working for us, but made a slight tweak today to try to help balance out where we're constantly playing and fading the same teams. Not that that's been bad, but want to back off of that just a little bit. So the model is a little bit biased towards the Guardians. So drop that down a little bit, and still the model still likes the Guardians here. So again, minus 105 an A-grade play, even with the adjustments to kind of back us off the Guardians a little bit. I think there's a lot of value here to try to finish out this series. Cousin Jared, what do you got for us?
Model says back the Guardians. Good. Been good to us all season. I see no reason why it would be any different here. Like you kind of alluded to, I was a little bit surprised to see not as much difference between Gray and Quantrill as I expected there to be. You know, when the model is kind of digging deeper than I can just with my eyes. So that made me feel good at Guardians play. I always feel good anytime I can play the Mariners or the Guardians. I always feel really good about that. And so let's just stick with it. It's been working. Let's back the Guardians again.
Yep, absolutely. Speaking of your favorite team, the Mariners, 4:07 Eastern. Mariners are playing the Angels. Angels starting to play a little better here now with Trout back in the lineup. The Angels have always been decent. The relievers are not good, and the offense should be better given they've got Trout and Ohtani at the top. But they've got a couple promising starters who've pitched well. They've looked pretty decent as of late. They were never as good as that early run. They were never quite as bad as that middle run. They've always just been kind of mediocre. Then when Trout missed so many games, that obviously hurt them. But I mean, they're a decent team here. Of course, the Mariners are still a better team. They are minus 131 favorites. Model with the adjustment, trying to back off the Mariners just a little bit, says Mariners minus 130. I'll back the Mariners. It's a C grade play. To get to the B grade, I want this in the minus 120s. If for some reason we could get in the minus 1 teens, that's an A grade, even maybe like minus 121, low minus 120s, maybe. But really got to get in the minus 120s before I get excited about this. So we'll see where this number goes. Maybe it's worth a stronger investment by the time you watch. Maybe you can shop around and get that minus 120 price. But at minus 131, I'm on the Mariners, just a C grade pick here. Logan Gilbert versus Jose Suarez. Suarez, a solid pitcher, right around league average, 3.84 ERA. Underlying metrics say that's fairly accurate. Obviously, Logan Gilbert, though, a better pitcher, 3.19 ERA. The underlying metrics say mid-3. So Mariners have a solid starting pitcher edge, solid reliever edge, and still a slight offensive edge. The issue is it's a little bit nullified facing a lefty in Suarez. So it's really the pitching edge that gives the Mariners their greatest chance of winning this game. And a game that should be upper 70s weather-wise, winds blowing out at almost 10 miles an hour. So the model thinks 8 is a little bit low, even though the pitchers are good, the relievers for the Mariners are good. Model thinks go over 8, as it thinks the total should be 9. Given the wind's going to be blowing out, day game ball carries better there in the day. Might see some runs in this one. Again, I'd be going over 8. And if I get minus 120, I like the Mariners a little better, but minus 131, just a C-grade pick for me on Seattle in the late afternoon. Cousin Jared, what are your thoughts?
Let the record show, I was not asked, and I did not give my approval for the model to make an adjustment to the Mariners. I was perfectly fine with the Mariners the way they were. I did not feel like there was a need to make any modifications to the model. But yeah, the model says this is a great number. That's fine. I'm staying away. What I would say is, it's the Mariners, right? So I'm going to give them a little bit of a shorter leash with a number that I'm looking for where I would back them. So it's funny that you said, low 120s. I was thinking 122 minus 121, something like that is where I would be interested in backing them. So that's what I'm waiting for. If it gets to around that number, I'm going to be on the Mariners as well.
Yep. 6:40 Eastern, first pitch. Cubs at the Marlins. I feel like the Cubs, again, really, I said this before, just exemplifying fun to back as a dog, not fun to back as a favorite. I feel like that's kind of how the weekend went against the Rockies. And that's just, I don't know. I feel like that's the way it goes with the Cubs, just because when you expect them to do something, they can't, but they're just frisky enough, to sometimes get it done as underdogs and those plus odds or lose by 1 on the run line. At the Marlins here tonight, I think there's a lot of value. Wade Miley versus Edward Cabrera. Cabrera, obviously a really good pitcher, but That 2.70 ERA is a lot of smoke and mirrors. The underlying metrics say it should be in the mid-4s. So still good young guy, can get a lot of strikeouts, but not going to give you a lot of length. And again, just too many walks, too many potentially hard hit balls mixed in with those strikeouts. He's just kind of asking for trouble at this point. Not that the Cubs offense is great, but you know, the more times you ask for trouble, just the more times it's going to happen. So he's kind of worked his way out of it, but I'm not sure that can be sustained. Wade Miley, 2.89 ERA, having a great season, solid arm. Underlying metrics say probably not that optimistic, but the underlying metrics for him has been more positive than for Cabrera. They project around the same, though, because Cabrera's got a little more upside, and those strikeouts are really valuable, of course, that he provides. So the model thinks those two pitchers are probably about a wash. Neither set of relievers are really great. The Marlins relievers, though, better than the Cubs relievers. The difference, of course, that the Cubs offense is at least close to league average, and the Marlins offense is terrible. The model says this is a pretty coin toss type game. Marlins minus 107. So the Cubs plus 122 offers a lot of value. It's an A grade play, whether it's money line or run line. And it's really a coin flip decision for me as to which one to go with. Given that the total is 7, I'm going to go with the run line at minus 175 and just say it should be a low scoring game. And that gives me a higher probability of winning. But I think it's really personal preference. I don't think I'm not strongly feeling like the run line's the better play here. I think both are great plays. I lean ever so slightly to the run line, but the money line makes a lot of sense as well. Model thinks total is 7.8. So model thinks maybe 7's a little bit too low, but assuming that the odds makers know something that I don't know, and that total of 7 is a reasonable price, it just makes the run line even that more likely to hit. So the odds are steep, but pretty likely that the Cubs either win or lose by 1. Marlins don't tend to score a lot of runs off decent pitching, and Miley is at least decent, if not better. Kissinger, what do you think?
So I have to say the model helped me here, because when I saw that the model had Cabrera and Miley rated the same, I was a little surprised, because we know that Miley's had a good season, and his underlying metrics are better, not quite as good as his actual statistics have been. But I, just like everybody else, am guilty of getting kind of swept away with Cabrera's just like unbelievable stuff. I mean, the 90-mile-an-hour sliders and all the strikeouts and everything. Definitely, like, at least in my mind, he's kind of built himself up to where he has all the talent in the world, but just hasn't quite put it all together yet. Still very good, but just not just this unbelievable pitcher yet. And so when I see that the model says that these two pitchers are even, and then you ask me to compare the offenses, well, of course, who am I going to back in that situation? So looking at it through that lens, I'm on the Cubs here. I'm taking Cubs money line. You completely agree with what you said. It could be a close game. The 1.5 runs could be real valuable, but if you're telling me that both of these starting pitchers are about even, I'm going to back the Cubs every time, just because I have no faith in the Marlins bats.
Yep, absolutely. This is when I think you said that you were able to get better odds earlier in the day, right?
Yeah, plus 130 when lines opened up earlier today. So yeah, getting early access to those lines via our Patreon definitely can provide some value.
Yep, if you could save 10 cents on 2 or 3 games every day, in the long run, that's going to really add up. So just a little bit of value there if that's something you're interested in. 6:40 Eastern, first pitch, Astros at the Rays. Rays are slight home favorites in this one. Luis Garcia versus Drew Rasmussen. Garcia's had moments where he's looked very promising. At this point, the model still says he's above average, but Rasmussen's the better pitcher here, a better ERA by a little over a full run. And the underlying metrics maybe aren't quite that favorable, but still have him as the better pitcher, how he's performed this season, projects better. As an Astros fan, Garcia's one I don't really have a ton of confidence in right now. He can obviously go out there and pitch well. He should pitch well in a pitcher's ballpark, but overall, I mean, Rasmussen is definitely the guy that I'm more comfortable backing in this spot. And the Rays offense isn't that far behind the Astros offense at this point. It's Astros offense is still better, but the Rays offense is not bad. They get a bad rap because they play in Tampa and Oakland are the two massively by far most pitcher-friendly ballparks. So if you look at the OPS and the home runs, they're not there. But when you look at the park neutral statistics, the Rays offense still a top 10 offense, really. And of course, again, behind the Astros, but not by that much. Both these sets of relievers Rays relievers are starting to really come around as they've gotten healthy. Both relievers grade out really well. Games in Tampa. Model says Rays minus 124. So I'm back in the Rays at minus 113. It's a B grade play. Really, any better gets it to an A grade. I mean, if it's in the 10 somethings, that would be an A grade play for me on Tampa. Total is 7, and the model says 6.6. So the model says to go under that total of 7 as well. Cousin Jared, what are your thoughts?
At this number, it is raise or pass for me. I'm not going to play it right now. Like you said, if it gets down to like minus 110 or something, maybe I'd be interested in it. Astros fans here, Luis Garcia, you just never quite know what you're getting, start to start. Yeah. Whereas with Rasmussen, I feel pretty comfortable backing him. So definitely at this number, I would strongly recommend the raise. And if it gets down to minus 110, then that's probably a play that I would jump on.
Yeah, and that's why I said it's really a B+ pick. And like I'm always talking about, right, the difference between the A and the B picks are sometimes not very much. The B picks over the last 7-8 weeks have been, profitable, not as much as the A picks, but still like a 3% ROI. These B picks, again, are things that I still recommend adding to your portfolio. The Rays are definitely one of those. It's just if you can get a little bit better of a price, I like it a little bit more. It's not quite there on the value, but it's still a play that I think makes a lot of sense here with a better pitcher in the home ballpark. I mean, a short price, Tampa Bay makes sense here.
Yep.
Orioles will play the Tigers 7:05 Eastern. Orioles, one of the few bright spots on a otherwise rough Sunday, is they're still fighting, not completely out of it, but losing those the first 2 games to the Blue Jays really hurts their playoff chances. Which is sad. I think a lot of us were hoping that the Orioles would get to the playoffs, and obviously those were 2 games that hurt. Losing Friday and Saturday. They should get some wins here against the Tigers. Obviously, they should be favored in all these games. 80 degrees for the totality of this game. Winds blowing out 5 to 10 miles an hour. Tyler Alexander versus Tyler Wells, a pair of Tylers in this one. Tyler Wells, though, average-ish pitcher. Tyler Alexander, not so much. Wells with an ERA of about a 1.5 better, and the underlying metrics maybe not quite that favorable, but Wells still the better pitcher in this one. Tigers reliever solid. Orioles reliever solid. Orioles bats okay. Tigers bats not. So I mean the Orioles with a starting pitcher edge, offensive edge, game in Baltimore, they should be favored. They are. Model says minus 185. I'm okay backing the Orioles. I think it's a good add to the portfolio at minus 182, but only a B grade pick. Not enough value to really invest extra in. Really looking more like 175 or so before this pick becomes one that is really exciting. And the model indicates to go over. Model says total of 8.8 rather than 8. So maybe a run line, not a bad idea in this one. If there are more runs than expected, that makes it more likely the Orioles win by multiple runs. But being the home team, I just don't like the home run lines as much. So I'm going to stick to the money line with a B grade pick, again at minus 182. Not a bad price, just kind of not quite good enough to get to the A grade level for me. Because Jared, what do you think?
I have got nothing to say about this game, really. I'm just like, I feel like since probably, I don't know, the 3rd week of April, I've been ready for the Tiger season to be over. And so, like, let's just usher it out.
Yeah. I think a lot of Tigers fans probably feel the same way.
Exactly the same way, I'm sure.
7:20 Eastern, Nationals at the Braves. Oh boy, this one, I mean, all Braves, really every way you look. Weather-wise, will be in the low 80s to start, upper 70s to finish. Winds will be blowing out, but under 5 miles an hour. Corey Abbott versus Kyle Wright. I mean, Kyle Wright's been great to us all season, 3.18 ERA. The advanced metrics say mid-3s. Abbott, mid-4 ERA. Advanced metrics say closer to 6. Massive starting pitcher edge for the Braves. Solid bullpen edge. Massive offensive edge. Model says Braves minus 377. So a price of Braves minus 325 is a reasonable pick if you do the money line parlays. Again, just my recommendation is don't put 7 teams in it. Don't put the same team in 7 different parlays, right? That sort of thing. But otherwise, if you do if you're a 2-team, 3-team, whatever, money line parlay kind of person, minus 325 makes a lot of sense to add to those. I'm going to stick to the run line, though, at minus 155. And even though those odds are steep, it's an A-grade play. This is all Braves. If the Nats accidentally hang in there, then I'm glad we've saved ourselves on the odds. But this should be a runaway. I'm going to back the Braves with an A-grade play on the run line, even at a price like minus 155. Because, Jared, what do you got?
I feel like the audience here has kind of seen me progress with my run line plays to where it's like, no, I will not ever do them. To now it's like, okay, I will try to understand your point of view on things. And so I think I mentioned this last time.
This is the perfect spot for it, though.
Yeah, this is where I mentioned it last time. We got Kyle Wright, and I see his starting pitcher projection of an 86 86, very good. And I see Corey Abbott's projection, 122, that is very not good. And so this feels to me like a 6-2 Braves win, and where the Nationals are not really in the game. So I'm going to lay the 1.5 with the Braves as well. I would be very, very surprised if they even hang close on this one.
Yeah, I would too. And baseball's weird and it can happen, but I mean, that's not the way it should play out. Model says total of 8.8, actual total is 8.5. I mean, I would probably lean more to the Braves team total over than the Nats team total under, but I think both of those make a lot of sense because I'm like you. If you said 6-2, 7-2, I'd be like, yeah, that sounds perfectly accurate. I mean, the Nats might eke 1 or 2 out, but this should be all Braves. And if it's not, it's it should be all Braves, but there's a reason why it's still minus 155, and it's not like a sport like basketball where this would be, right, minus 700 or something like that. It's accounted for that in the probabilities. So 7:40 Eastern, first pitch. Mets at the Brewers. This one should be a nice little pitching matchup here. Max Scherzer and Corbin Burns. Weather-wise in Milwaukee, we're talking low 70s, upper 60s. I'm projecting that they'll open the roof on that, but either way, it shouldn't affect too much. That'll be roughly the temperature that it would be if they close the roof, within rounding error at least. Obviously, the Mets offense is better. Mets relievers are better. Scherzer's a little better. Burns has really dropped down from tier 2 to tier 3 as he's struggled on and off here the last month or so. Both these guys have advanced metrics, say their ERA should be in the 3s. It's just that Scherzer, just a little bit better of a track record, projects better. Total is 7, model says 7, but the model also says the Mets should be favored here. Price of minus 110. I'll grab the Mets at even money with the B grade pick. If it gets any higher in the plus odds, it's really an A grade. Between this one and the Rays, both of them are really B plus picks. I really think they're worth the investment. Just not enough value to warrant the A grade play because Corbin Burns still is a really good pitcher, and just a little bit of concern about how many innings Scherzer's going to throw in this one. That's kind of the only thing holding me back. But I mean, if this were to get up into the plus 105 range, I think the Mets are really worth a play. It should be a low scoring game, but the Mets just a better team in every avenue on this one. So I'm backing them at even money with a B grade. Kissinger, what do you got?
I think that backing the Mets is a pretty good play here, but the play that I like better is I'm going to take the under 7 here. I mean, I know Burns may have been a little off the past few starts, but I can see him easily rounding into form. And then, of course, with Scherzer, you kind of always know what you're getting. I know that not quite sure how many innings he might throw, but the Mets bullpen, obviously, I have faith in them. Yeah. I have faith in them as well. So I like the under 7 here. This is one of those things where, like, if this line were a month ago, like, I don't feel like there's any way that this is 7. I feel like this is 6.5. And so I think you're getting some value there. So I love the under 7 in this game.
Yeah, it's one that if the model had said, or if the total was 6.5 and the model still says 7, I would have been like, yeah, model says 7, but sense. I wouldn't play. I wouldn't play over 6.5, right?
Right.
I don't really know. I'm a little surprised it says 7. I figured it would say 6 point something.
Yeah.
I'm like you. And maybe it's about Scherzer, not having started in about 2 weeks now. But like you said, the Mets bullpen is solid enough, has so much depth, so many good arms there that and it's not like both teams want to win, so it's not like either team's going to be throwing anything away here. Yeah, should be a tight contest.
Yeah, I think my concern would be if Burns gets run a little bit early, and then just the length of the Brewers bullpen isn't what it used to be, not what we thought it was at the beginning of the season. So I think that's my biggest concern is that Burns gets run early, and then we have to deal with the Brewers bullpen. I think we like to talk about how can you lose a play. I think that's how you lose this one.
Right, and then if that's the case, then maybe you look Brewers team total under.
Yeah,
might be a solid play.
Yeah,
or like we've talked about before, playing not parlaying, but playing both the Mets and the under, and that way it's like you might win both, but it's harder to see losing both of them. You might split, and you might win both. So a couple of different ways you can kind of tackle that as well.
Yeah.
8:40 Eastern, first pitch. Giants at the Rockies. Giants now will have to deal with the quote unquote curse of Sunday Night Baseball that may be a little bit broken last week, but also in this one of note, playing an extra inning game where they used like every player on their roster, it seems like. Traveling to Coors, playing in altitude here. I'm not going to say this is a curse of Sunday Night Baseball situation, but I am saying this is a really tough travel spot for the Giants. So the Rockies are in town, rested, know how to play in the altitude, a much better home team than a road team. Offense performs much better. I mean, this sets up to be a narrative of Giants tired coming off of that and the altitude. it feels like a spot that's really tough for the Giants. Weather-wise, it'll be relatively warm in Denver, upper 80s to start, low 80s to close. Winds will be blowing, kind of swirling around different directions, probably not affecting things too much. Total is 11.5. Model says 11.1. If you are thinking the Giants are a little bit tired, that would really affect the bats. So that might lead to an under or a Giants team total underplay. With the way the Rockies hit at home against some questionable Giants pitching, I'm not sure if I'd probably like Giants team total under more than I'd like game under in this one. I'm on the Rockies here at plus 109. It's less of a model edge and more of I just think this is a terrible spot for the Giants. Rockies play well at home. Model tends to not like the Rockies. So I'm all over the Rockies here. It's a B grade play. If it got to be too much more in the plus odds, it would jump to an A grade. This is just, again, all about the spot, all about the Rockies at home. Pitching wise, Jacob Junis is a better pitcher than Chad Kuhl, but I'm not sure how many innings Junis is going to go, and that turns it over to a very weak Giants bullpen. Giants offense is better, but in Coors, the Rockies offense tends to play really well. So plus odds here, I think, makes a lot of sense on the Rockies. Again, not really a model edge, more of just a spot edge. Because Jared, what do you got?
I'm this close to pulling the trigger on the Rockies for all the reasons that you just mentioned. I like. There's a few things that I really enjoy doing. I feel like we all know I like backing the Mariners, like backing the Guardians. I love to fade the Rockies on the road, but getting them at home like this, like you mentioned, an extra, not just a Sunday night baseball game, but an extra inning game for the Giants that just wrapped up right before we started recording here. So I think the Rockies are in a really good spot. This is definitely one of those things where, like, I may just wait to see if I get a better number, but it's like middle of the day tomorrow. If it hasn't moved, I'll just go ahead and lock in the Rockies at the number that's out there.
Yep. 10:10 Eastern, first pitch. Diamondbacks at the Dodgers. Around 70 degrees at night in Los Angeles for this one. Winds will be blowing out 5 to 10 miles an hour to start, dying down to around 5 miles an hour to finish. Right now, no line on this one as we haven't confirmed starting pitching, but it's projected to be Merrill Kelly versus Clayton Kershaw. Both these pitchers good. Kershaw's, in that really solidified himself still now deep in his career as that third tier starter, again, tier 1, Jacob deGrom, tier 2, a bunch of those other really good pitchers, and then tier 3. Kershaw's in that spot. Kelly probably in tier 4 right behind that, but a guy who's been really good to us. A 3.01 ERA for Kelly. Underlying metrics say probably not quite that good, but still very solid. Kershaw 2.44 ERA. Underlying metrics say it should be in the upper 2s, having another great season. Obviously, the Dodgers have a massive edge on offense and a massive edge with the relievers. Talking about making model adjustments, part of that is to try to give the Dodgers a little bit more credit, as they're the one team that's just a huge outlier, and hopefully just trying to find a way for the model to kind of say, hey, we're kind of missing on them. Let's continue to adjust on them. Model says Dodgers minus 245 with a total of 7.4. Obviously, if a pitcher change happens, that's something to take note of. The other thing with the Dodgers here is, having played on Sunday Night Baseball, played an extra inning game, not sure who's going to be in the lineup here for what's a lot of meaningless games. If they, this would be a perfect spot where if they had an off day on Monday, everybody gets rested. But without the off day, hard to know. But there's a decent chance that we don't see a full strength Dodgers roster. So my advice is, if you're backing the Dodgers, wait and see the lineup. If the price gets worse and you miss the boat, then that's okay. It's fine to pass. But I just wouldn't, knowing that he played an extra inning game and traveling, I wouldn't want to be on the Dodgers in the morning and then find out that they, Mookie's not playing and, whoever else isn't playing, right? And it just turns into one of those things where it's maybe not 4 guys rested, but a couple guys rested, and then the price moves. At that point, I'd rather wait till the price drops and then back them if I'm on the Dodgers. So again, model says 245. If assuming it's kind of a full strength Dodgers team, the total of 7.4. I'll make a pick on this one. Once we have more information, I'll update the sheet and Twitter. Cousin Jared, thoughts on this one?
I was kind of like looking at the under on this one. Don't know what the line is yet, but just, my general thinking going into the game, especially if you're getting Kelly and Kershaw, could be a good pitcher's duel there. And then I think that's boosted by the fact that if the Dodgers don't have all of their top tier players, they decide to rest somebody. That definitely helps that. The problem is that, number one, the Dodgers offense, it's good. So that
can score some runs.
It can score some runs. It could also run a pitcher out early. And if it gets to the Diamondbacks bullpen, very, very not good. Currently, very not good. The second worst bullpen projection in Major League Baseball, behind only our good buddies, the Pittsburgh Pirates bullpen. Which has single-handedly won and lost us so many games. This
very
season.
Fair.
So
highest leverage bullpen in the majors, it seems like.
yeah. So that's kind of where my head's at. I would look at the under, like you said, want to see what the lineups would be and all that type of stuff. But just general thinking, that's kind of where my head's at.
Yep. All right, that's all the games on Monday. Quick recap of what the picks are. Guardians -105 in the afternoon at home against the Twins. Got the Cubs on the run line at -175 at the Marlins in the early evening. I got the Braves on the run line at -155 at home against the Nationals. And again, a couple of B+ plays that I really like in the Rays at home against the Astros turns into an A-grade play if it's -10 something. And then the Mets at the Brewers turns into an A-grade play. Really, anything that's plus odds also makes a lot of sense there, in my opinion. Then a Diamondbacks Dodgers pick later to come. Cousin Jared, any parting words?
I'm telling you, go check out those Patreon benefits if you haven't signed up yet. Potentially even get up some early access to these lines where you can get some better value, and if nothing else, give you some more time to kind of analyze the lines, be looking for line movements that might be advantageous towards what you want to play. So definitely encourage everybody to go check out our Patreon page.
Which is part of why it worked out nice that my birthday was on Friday and I was able to give everyone that benefit on a Friday, was people could look at it on a Friday, because I personally, Saturday is just so crazy, all the college football stuff. I feel like you want to know what you're doing, have it all laid out, and then don't have to worry about it, So having that extra time can sometimes just be a nice little thing too. Just
exactly.
The models. Given that it's been a pretty solid and adjusted really well as the season's got along, being a player-based model, it's done exactly what I hoped it would do. So
yeah.
All right. Well, that's all we have then. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. Check out the website if you haven't yet. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel is dropped right into your feed. I'll see you again tomorrow with more Major League Baseball betting picks. Already got college football episode 1 recorded. That'll be up soon, if not already, and 2 more episodes of that later to come. Lots of content here in the fall. As always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.